Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Swerve with me. This is a show where we have adult conversations for mature audiences only. I'm Miranda Innes, and it's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you each week. We take the time to spotlight people who have been through, have overcome, and they're not afraid to talk about the various challenges that they're having in their lives or have had. And our goal is to help people to move them, to push them actually through nothingness to a place of doing something, to a place of being proud of who you are and what you've overcome. And I am always delighted when I have so many phenomenal guests that take the time to say, hey, Miranda, I want to swerve with you. And tonight is certainly no exception. Now, I know for those of you in the Bahamas, I am competing with the address from the Honorable Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Dr. Hewitt Minnis. So I expect that you will be joining me. But for all of you, my friends out there throughout the US and around the world, welcome. Come on in. I'm giving you a chance to come in. Make sure you know what we do here. We share and we let people know that someone amazing is coming up on this young woman. I'm looking for her bio, which is phenomenal. I just want to read some of the things because it is amazing that one so young has accomplished so much, and there's so much more that she has yet to do. And so it gives me the greatest honor to introduce and to present to you tonight Caline Newton. Caline is, first of all, she is a certified accountant, and she works for one of the largest law firms in the Bahamas. But in addition to that, she's a philanthropist. She's a Paul Harris Fellow, for those of you who are familiar with Rotary International. She's an international speaker. She's a TEDx speaker. She's a spoken word artist. Perhaps we can get her to spit something out tonight. She's a best selling author. She is unapologetically authentic. I just love that. And most of all, with all of the other accolades, I love that she is a culture disruptor. And we want to talk about that tonight and the role that she plays. It is so good to present to you all tonight Caline Newton. Caline, come on in. It's so good for you to be here tonight.
Good night, Miranda. It is such a pleasure to be here with you. It's an
Thank,
honor.
thank you so much. I want to say good night to those of you who popped in. Thank you, Joba. Hi, Keisha. Good to have you on board. Hi, Diana, Laverne, Cherry, Sandra Leek. Who else is there? Oh, come on in. Make sure you share this because Kayleen is one of those persons who is multi gifted, multi talented, multifaceted. She's a powerhouse. Don't mind that smile. Behind that is a force to be reckoned with. And she's known as a money maven in the Bahamas. She's not only beautiful, but she's educated. And she works with the government and many aspects of small business owners and large business owners. But there's so much that we have to cover tonight because of the variety and the veracity of what it is that she does. But I wanted to talk to her on a personal note, and then we'll get into the professional things, of course. Hey, Warren, good to have you. That's my nephew, Warren. Hi, BB, there in Brooklyn. Yeah, they coming in, child. Y'all do your thing. I wanted to talk to you because it was several months ago, actually last month. Yeah, I made a post because it was my birthday, and I was just sitting down having one of those moments where I was just being grateful and thinking about all the many things that I've been through in my life to date. And one of those things was getting a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis and lupus over 20 years ago. And I posted a little something talking about that journey briefly, and Kayleen came on and she shared that she too had been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis among many other autoimmune diseases. And it's on that note that I wanted to reach out and connect with her because I understand the fight. I
Yes.
understand what it is to wake up every day and put a smile on despite how you're feeling physically, and to show up in spaces, in boardrooms, and wherever you need to be. I understand the fight to be able to it's mind over matter.
Yes.
And I so understand that fight. So let's talk a little bit, introduce Caline to our audience tonight. First of all, who's Caline?
So, who is Caline? Thank you so much, Miranda, as I said, for this opportunity. So, who is Caline? I love that you said multifaceted. So, I am a multifaceted person. I am an unrecognizable miracle. And I am someone who believes in being authentic and just being yourself, truly showing up the way God intended you to be. And that's who Caline is in a nutshell. And every time I have an opportunity to walk in a room, to speak in a room, even if it's one person or an audience, I show up as that person. So that is Caline in in its simplest form.
It's a well. I'm told that Kayleen was kind of like a firecracker as a little girl, and she was the kid that would speak out and
Yeah,
speak up. She
yeah,
was the one who wanted to right injustices, and she was the person that people looked to,
yeah,
even as a child, for leadership. It just kind of was your lot.
yes.
It just fell upon you. And so tell us a little bit about Kayleen, pre-adolescence, what was going on in her mind, what was happening at the time.
So I like to tell individuals one of my favorite foods is conch salad, and I always say I love it spicy, just like me. So who Kayleen was pre-adolescent was very spicy, but I was also pensive. So I had wasn't just always a firecracker. There was times when I would withdraw, but especially when it was times to champion for children or for anyone, my friends, my classmates, I was the one that spoke up no matter if it was the adult authority, I would speak up. I never had a challenge with speaking my mind, respectfully though, because one thing I could say my mom taught me was that we could say anything, it was just how we said it. And
Mhm.
so, yes, I was that firecracker. To this day, I'm still that firecracker. And I'm thankful that I'm able to show up as a firecracker and still be respected. So it's not about just being rude or trying to challenge the norm just because, but it's also because, as I you had said earlier, I know I am purposed to be a culture disruptor. That
Mhm.
was spoken to me through the Holy Spirit, that I'm purposed to be that person. And so I just try to live up to the standard that God has purposed me to be.
And so, since you went there already, let's talk about this culture disruptor. What does that mean, and what does it entail?
So
Being
what
a
that means to
culture
me is,
disruptor. I just
yeah,
love the sound of that.
well, we know culture is something that we believe is the norm, is something that, and is not to disrespect our ancestors or forefathers. Yes, there are some cultural things that are foundational that should not be removed. But we have some things in our culture that need to be removed that we believe is right or just, and it really isn't. And a lot of times we don't want to speak up on it because we feel like we'll be discrediting our ancestors or our forefathers. But there's some things are generational. So you
Mhm.
have to build upon, that's how I look at it. You have to build upon the foundations of the prior generations. And instead of just being numb to what is happening, but you speak up. And that's what a culture disruptor is. That's someone who, whatever sphere of influence that you're in, that you speak up and you bring fact for change.
So, in this context, we're talking. Are you talking Bahamian culture, or people in the African diaspora's culture in general?
Yes.
So let's go there.
Yeah,
Let's go
it's
there.
a whole, it's more than just the Bahamas.
Right. So
It's
let's go
yeah.
there, and let's talk about some things in our culture as a people that you believe need to be disrupted.
Well, definitely in the space that I'm in, it's wealth
Mhm.
and financial freedom, stability, independence, the Our dollar is one of the strongest dollars because of our spending capacity. But we consume more than we invest. And this is where the disruption is, because we believe that there's only 1%, or we were taught that there's only one, you have to be in that 1% in order to have wealth, in order to have abundance, in order to see what financial freedom was all about.
Mhm.
And you don't have to be in that 1%.
Mhm. So let's listen. You pushing me. You pushing me with that. So we're gonna go there because one of the things that has been culturally as a people of the African diaspora is the fact that, of course, because of enslavement and slavery over the years. I mean, the truth is we started at a disadvantage. Most of us and most persons have not yet been able to break out, to break free, and even those persons, I might add, that have made money and have had opportunities in some respects has blown it,
Yes,
because you said one of the key things is that we are consumers, we're not prosumers. We don't like the idea of investing and saving. We think that if we have it, it's meant to be worn on our
yes.
backs, or the shoes on our feet, or the the bags that we carry. So let's talk a little bit about the whole mindset that culturally we've had with money.
Okay, so I'm going to really peel back the layers,
Mm-hmm.
because from a mindset point of view, and this was a study that was done in 2013 at the University of Cambridge. By the time a child is 7 years old, all of their emotions have been developed when it comes to money, because of their experiences or being in the environment or the culture. So by the time you're 7, if you're saying that it's already developed, could you imagine now if you have no more influence that's beyond what you know?
Okay, so
And you,
jump in right there because for someone who may have been brought up in abject poverty, and you're saying by the time at 7 years old, they've pretty much summed up their relationship with money has already been developed. What is the cost that someone who has been raised in abject poverty, they look around, everything is poverty, and they don't get opportunities to see another side? What has been the trend for persons like that? And let me just interject it because I have a really lively spiritual audience, and we understand the word and what God says, but we're talking about what exists
yes.
right now. So let's talk about the path that someone who was raised, and this is not everybody because we know
Mhm.
there are exceptions. What would be the trend that has been happening to persons who would have been raised in those types of communities?
So if you're raised in that type of community and you never get an opportunity beyond an injection with education or from a governmental policy standpoint, you continue on that pathway. So you rarely ever come out of that environment of poverty. And then your children and children's children also can continue on that. But there's also another side to that. When you do now have resources, you blow it,
Mm-hmm.
because you now think that I never had it. So I am now going to enjoy it. And because I never had it, my children will always have it. So I will do whatever it is that I need to do in order for my children to have it. So those are the two pathways that end up happening when you're in abject poverty. And this is the reason why I am like a financial advocate, because financial literacy can truly disrupt that pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you now know that you have an opportunity that you can do from a simple perspective, and it's just the fact of making sure that you are committed to change, then you will see a totally different result.
So it's the relationship that we have with money,
Yeah,
whether it's in our hands or not. It's the
yeah,
relationship that we have with money that again pushes some people to wear it, to walk on it, to want to show it rather than to invest and to
Yeah.
think about that next generation. We're going to push that a little further out. Got your head? Okay, we're back. Okay, good. That was just a little disruption in the technology. So yeah, we were talking about our personal relationship with money as people of color. I want to say in particular at this time, and the way how our parents were raised, and we hear it often. I don't want my child to have to go through what I've gone through, and I believe in some respects, parents tend to overcompensate
So yes.
in some areas, which we know is to the detriment of the child. There has to be that balance. How does one strike that balance once you've become exposed, and for those who've had the opportunities to go on to either be entrepreneurs and build their own businesses, or gone on to universities and be employed in good stead, and I guess made it to the middle class, if that exists anymore, and others to the upper class. But
Yeah.
let's talk about the balance of how do you maintain that balance of wanting the best or wanting more for your children and grandchildren, but at the same time not overcompensating, overspending, and doing too much so that they don't understand the value of a dollar.
Well, first of all, you have to come from the perspective of, do you understand the value of a dollar?
Mhm.
Because you cannot now pass that on if you don't. Because you now have opportunity does not mean that it's an automatic or it's synonymous with understanding the value of a dollar.
Mhm.
So that is where you have to also, from a personal perspective, you have to evaluate your relationship with money. And then from the secondary, it's not really about balance, it's about harmony. Because when it comes to personal finances, it's personal. So, what goals do you have for yourself and your children and your family? And find a way where you can now align your money with your goals, and definitely ensure that the children are a part of the conversation if children are involved, because this is where they can now, you can highlight where you've moved from where you're at to where you're at going. Also introduce value, what the core values are about money, to the children, and then it becomes a dynamic conversation where both of you are now living where you want to go. So you're not leaving the children behind, and you're not just putting them into another experience just because you now want something different for them.
I like the idea of the inclusivity of children in the conversation. How early can that parents begin that conversation with their children?
Well, financial literacy can start as early as 3, the same way literacy is now introduced to children, ABCs, that sort of thing, words, one syllable words. You would do the same thing now. It wouldn't be the complex financial terminology or literacy point of view, but you would just start, just how you teach them how to count, you would teach them what the coins are so that they could identify currency. Let
Hmm.
them understand that this is a medium of exchange. You could introduce the concept of needs versus wants.
Hmm.
So it isn't about the actual dollar value. It's about the concepts. And then the older they get, then you introduce differently. So when they get into older, maybe say 7 through 9 or 10, you start to teach them the concept. I call it a 3-tier concept of sharing, saving, and spending, which
Hmm.
is a simple concept. And then when they get older, if they're in the 10th, ninth, age 9, 10, 11, you teach them entrepreneurship, something as simple as a lemonade stand, so that
Hmm.
they could understand that you now exchange something of value for currency, which is also something of value. So it's stages, just how you would introduce literacy concepts. You will also do that from a financial perspective or a money perspective.
Awesome. If you're just joining us, I'm talking to Caline Newton, who is a certified accountant and a business strategist, financial strategist, and so on and so on and so on. Caline, we know that you said it begins with the parents' values and the way they see money and the way they utilize money. So for a parent who's struggling, who's struggling because of course nobody taught them,
Mhm.
and they just started working and
Mhm.
earning money. And I think I remember my mindset when I started working at the time, way back then. My goal at the time was to get my own car. Like that was my very first goal, was to get my own car. And I remember having this conversation, for those of you who are from the Grand Bahama area, with the late Edward St. George. I had a
Oh,
conversation with him. I was a young reporter at the time, and I was interviewing him for some reason, and I was talking. I don't know. We just got into a conversation because he was that kind of person. And he was the first person that taught me, because I didn't know anything at the time about depreciating, the value of depreciating cars. And he told me this, and I never forgot. And he told me never buy a new car, especially at my age, being so young. Because he was the first person that said to me, when you drive that car off the lot, the value has immediately, it's already gone down.
by
And he began
20%.
yeah, and he began to teach me little lessons along the way,
Mhm.
and I'm grateful to God for him and the impact. But he was also the first person that told me I should be looking at investments. So I'm 21. This is the 80s. Yeah, 80s, and I'm 21 at the time, and so this is the first person, literally up to date to 21, that's literally telling me now you should be looking at investments. And it was because of him I
Mhm.
made my very first investment. A lot of people don't have that kind of instruction and opportunities right now. And so I'm talking to that parent who just working, trying to make ends meet. This is the age that we're in now, where most people are literally just trying to make ends meet, and there's very little for investments. So I want you to take us to like finance 101,
Finance. Okay.
101, whatever you want
Okay.
to call it, like 101. Where's
Yeah.
the first place? How do they get started with whatever is left after the bills are paid?
So, Finance 101. The first thing you need to do is take out a piece of paper and write down everything you spend your money on. Because a lot of times you just see that you have no money and you believe you know what you're spending your money on, but you cannot fix what you don't face. And the only way to face that is to write down every penny you spend. Because when you do that too, you will also realize, am I also supplementing my income from borrowing from people, using a credit card, or simply am I spending my money on the bare bone necessities that I need?
Mhm.
When I started to work, I had a loan that I had to pay back, which was an educational loan that my mom got for me. And it was $600 a month when it was time for me to pay it. I was making $150 a week. And I tell people, do the math.
Mhm.
So every dollar I was making was going to that loan. But what I started to do is do some things that people don't like to do. I took leftovers for lunch every day. I just did. You have to whittle it down to the bare bones of, if you're a parent or a single parent, a mother who has children and you're living from paycheck to paycheck, even if you're living from paycheck to paycheck, put at least $5 away in a savings account. So before you could even look at invest, you're saying, why should I put something in a savings account and I have no money? You're creating a habit, because once you start to create this habit, instead of spending $100 in the food store, you may spend $95. You will find a way to pay yourself first. So, as a faith based person, The first thing you do is tithes. But the second thing is you have to pay yourself next, even if it's just a small amount of $5. Because if you continuously keep yourself in that cycle of spending every penny without knowing what it's being spent on or without savings, you will continue to be in that cycle forever.
Hmm. So making that list is
So
important.
you have to make that list. And I tell people do it for at least 3 months
Hmm.
without any, just write everything down without trying to analyze it. And then after 3 months, you go back and you categorize where you spent your money.
That, listen,
That's
wh-
101.
when I did that and I looked at where my money was going on some of the things that I really could have passed up, like,
Yeah.
but I recognize it is, and for most people, I think it starts with those lunches, because seriously, the money that you spend day to day on lunch rather than taking lunch in, by the end of the week, depending on how much money you spend on lunch,
Hmm.
for some people that could be at least almost $100, depending on what they're buying
Yes.
or where they're going.
Yes.
And so I think that's one of the first things that they
Yes.
could zero in on, is that lunch habit for sure.
So food is one of those F's that really kills your budget. So another thing that someone who is tight on their money can do is buy when certain things are on special. Now, if your money is really limited, I'm not talking about bulk. I'm talking about if chicken is on special, you eat chicken that week. If ground beef is on special, you would have spaghetti that week. So you will focus and hone in on what the specials are. And you no longer have to buy a newspaper to get that information. It's online. The stores are now putting it on online. So when you have that opportunity, you now create your grocery list or you meal plan from the specials that exist.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
So it's
that in
working with
itself
what
will
you have.
also impact your how you spend your money.
That makes a lot of sense. For Warren says, for someone like me who can't cook, these people restaurants take all my money. Well, you need to make some adjustments there. So we're talking about the basic and starting from the bottom, and for the average person who really is trying to navigate through these challenging times financially, and for me, it really doesn't matter what I want to say, stratus, or what your status is, because
No.
if you have these habits carry through no matter where
Yes.
you are, and
Yes.
and if you are able to conquer these now, when you get more, you learn how to manage more. And
Right.
for people of faith, it's being a good steward at the end
Yes.
of the day. That's what it's really all about.
Yes.
Okay, Teresa McQuay says, true, plan out your paycheck as best as you can before payday, to know what you're doing with every paycheck. She says, plan it out so that you know what you're doing. So we jumped right into
Yeah,
to
we
be
jumped right in.
jumped right into being this cultural disruptor, and when it came to money. But I want to go back now. Let's talk about some other things, as a culture, as a people, that we need to, like, to break some strongholds, break some curses, however you want to put it, shift the culture. Let's talk about some other things that we struggle with as a people, that we need to take another look at.
Definitely being held back because of other people's perceptions.
Oh gosh, that's major. Let's go there. Let's go there.
So that is another thing that a lot of individuals struggle with because we come from a culture, and when I say a culture, we already established is beyond the Bahamas,
Sure.
just in our, you know, in our culture,
Hmm.
that we are to show up a certain way, we are to sound a certain way, speak a certain way. What success looks like is a certain way. There's a benchmark or a totem pole in so many things when it comes to showing up as others expect us to do.
Hmm.
And so that is another place where I see myself as a disruptor
Hmm.
and speaking unapologetically to that because I believe that a lot of the strongholds or the diseases or the sicknesses or the emotional and mental traumas that we have, if we are to really peel back the layers, it's all built upon the perception of what this person thinks or what I should do or what I'm expected to be. And just not being able to give ourselves grace and really lean into what God wants us to be as a person.
And that's being your authentic self, as
And
you
that's
said.
being your authentic self. Yes.
That stems so much too. I remember being in a culture where you just want to fit in. And you know, when you're a kid in school or whatever it is, you I was in a situation where I knew I was different. And I was okay with being different, except the fact that the people around me weren't okay with me being different. But I was okay with it. But after a while, them not being okay with it started to get to me.
Yes. Yes.
And I believe that is in many cases when we try to, and it's never comfortable and it never works. The reality is, it's just, it never works trying to conform to other people's expectations,
Expectations. Yeah.
who you should be, or the way you should act and the way you should behave. But on the other hand, that takes courage, Kayleen.
Yes.
That takes courage to come to the place where you said no, where you say, no, I am not going to be who you want me to
Yes.
be.
It takes
I am,
radical courage,
yes, I am going.
fearless courage.
Yeah, and it takes, how do people build to that courage? How do people help them build to that? For people who may still be struggling with acceptance in terms of, if I do this, if I say that, I may not be accepted.
Now this is gonna be something that's not the norm because I believe that it's something that you deal with on a daily basis, no matter how much you understand that you're not the same or like others, that you stand out. But it's more to me about obedience than confidence.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
And so, in order to build up to it, you have to be connected to that source, and that source is God.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to understand and walk in obedience. And that's what it is for me. Because there are many days that I do see what the world sees or want me to be. But because I am connected to a source that I understand ultimately what I should be doing, I lean into being obedient.
Mm-hmm. I
And
believe.
so it starts from being connected to the source. No matter how many people believe that you could do this thing without God, you cannot. Even
Mm-hmm.
if it shows up, over time, the true lasting results, you have to be connected to the
Mm-hmm.
source.
And once you find that connection, and being able to walk in that kind of obedience does not come without cost, does
No,
not come without paying a price.
no, it doesn't.
Let's talk about the side of paying that price. Let's talk about that. What does that mean? What does that feel like? What does that look like?
Well, paying the cost, what that looks like is you will have physical scars. You will have physical scars. Now, we didn't get into my story, but I can.
We go in there, but this right now we on this train, and I try to work my
you,
way there, but
you
we gonna
try to
get
work
there.
your way there. I saw this meme or quote a couple of days ago, and it resonated so much with me. And it says that your scars are evidence that God exists.
Hmm. Hmm.
He's healed you and he's brought you through. So you have to embrace your scars. And once you know the source, then there's this, you have to create this, I call it this gentle dance between being obedient and committed to that and saying to yourself that, why me?
Hmm.
Because that also comes up too. Why me? And it's just a conversation that you have to continuously have with the source. and just keep focused on the commitment that this is your life and you have to walk out your life the way God has intended it for you.
Mhm. I guess I could deem myself a culture disruptor as well, because one of the reasons that I created this platform was so that people who never had one before or didn't have the courage before, that they would be in a safe space
Yeah,
where they could tell their story
yeah,
without judgment, with support around, and with people to love on them and to cheer them along the way, because a lot of people have not yet made peace
no,
with their past, have not made peace with who they are, and they're still between that place. If I really told these people who I am or what I've experienced, I'm not sure they would
they
accept me.
like me.
They may not like me,
Yeah,
and a lot of people are still in limbo
yeah.
because of their in their lives, because of that fact. But there's a freedom.
Oh,
There is a freedom that comes with being able to be your authentic
yeah,
self, and be unapologetic and
yeah,
say, hey, this is who I am, this is what happened,
yeah.
and this is how I've handled it, and this is how I'm handling it.
Hmm.
There's a freedom, and what you find, and what I find along the way as I work with so many people, they find that you think you got a story. Have you met my servant Job? In other words, like,
Yeah,
have you
yeah,
met so and so?
yeah.
And I have this opportunity to be able to connect people, that share common things. So let's talk about you, because you went to college, you completed high school and went to college. Was a brilliant student, so you got scholarships
Hmm.
like a lot of people, and you went into college. And I know I went to university on scholarship as well, and it's contingent upon maintaining a GPA in order to keep that money coming to pay for the
Yeah,
dorm and to pay for the books and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff, and then working on campus and all that stuff that comes along with it. But in your senior year, as you're wrapping up your degree in accounting, and was it computer information systems?
Yeah.
Yes, I told y'all she's a whiz, guys. So she's doing this dual major, and then she gets diagnosed with a smorgasbord of different autoimmune, diseases, inclusive of rheumatoid arthritis. So that was only one of them. But the impact of when you got this diagnosis, what happened? Tell us about what happened that made you go to the doctor in the first place.
Well, one morning I woke up. It was the spring of 1996, and I couldn't straighten up. So I couldn't stand up, and most definitely I couldn't move.
Hmm.
Naturally walk without excruciating pain.
Hmm.
And so, as I said, we like to use that range of 1 to 10. My pain was like a 20.
Hmm.
It was just unheard of. So I couldn't move. I couldn't move naturally. I couldn't straighten up. And so I was forced to go to the doctor. No over the counter medicine or pain medicine could do anything for me. So that was just natural that I was taken to the doctor for just a battery of tests.
Hmm. And you got these texts, and got diagnosed with so many different things. I don't know if you want to share all of them or whatever,
No,
but it was a lot.
yeah, but basically every joint, every nerve, every muscle, and every tissue was being attacked by my body.
And you're how old at the time?
20. I was
And she's
20
20
years
20
old.
years old at the time, senior in college,
See,
full major, and she
with a
just
mindset that I must graduate in May
get out because you can't pay for this.
because
You're on the
I
schedule.
I was on a schedule, correct.
On a schedule, and in the senior year this happens. Were you a person of faith at the time,
Oh,
or what were you thinking?
always been a person of faith. I was born into a family of just faith, a faith based family and just prayer. So I was someone who was very focused on faith, very focused on faith. So my faith wasn't broken as yet,
Hmm. So
even with that
you got this
diagnosis.
diagnosis at school. You're away from your family, and so what are you thinking as you get this diagnosis? What, like, go back to what is your immediate thought?
My immediate thought was, in a few weeks, my family, who is already saved to come to my graduation, will be in this far place of Iowa, and I need to be walking. I need to be graduating. That was where my mind was.
Oh, so you were that close to
I was that
graduation.
close to graduation. It was maybe 6 weeks out. My guidance counselor professors had told me I'm not going to make it. But I was determined because now I'm thinking beyond just getting this diploma. Family is now prepared
Hmm.
from a financial point of view and their limited resources to be there for me. So I need to show up.
Hmm. And show up you did. You made it across the
And
state.
I made it across the line, didn't find out until the day of graduation that I was graduating
Hmm.
because I was still taking exams the day before graduation
Because of the sickness that
because
had.
of the right of the challenge with the illnesses and not being in class for a period of time, but just telling them I need to do this thing.
And so you knew, good night, Marcia, Deanza, Leanne. Good to have all of you guys with me. So you graduate, and you what's happening now with your body, and do you go to work immediately, or you take some time to take care of this challenge that you have in front of you
You wouldn't believe that I went on to now do a certification
immediately after graduation?
immediately after graduation, and in September I could no longer function on my own. When I say function, being in a town without family, without a community of support,
Hmm.
and I had to come home.
Hmm. So you
So I
came
came
home.
home.
You came home, and is this when you experienced your first bout with paralysis?
So yeah, so October of that year, 1996, was when I became fully bedridden, paralysis, unable to take care of myself, unable to walk, unable to feed myself, just
Hmm.
was not able to do anything for myself. And when I think back, the best thing that ever happened to me was coming home, even though at that time I didn't see it.
Mhm. Because you had no idea at the time
I
that
had
you
no
know where you
idea.
would end up.
But
That's like God, who knows the end from the beginning.
yes,
That's
yes,
why He's Alpha and Omega, and we're
yes,
not.
and we just in between.
And we're not. So you
No,
became bad. I know what that's like.
yes,
To be totally and completely dependent on your loved ones to take care of you, but not even knowing how long it's going to last.
no, no,
And
no.
so, how long did that period last for you?
Almost 3 months in
Hmm.
the initial stage, almost 3 months. And as I said, after being able, resuming, being able to walk again, it was off and on for the next 4 months. So from January to April of 97.
Hmm. What toll, if any, did that take on your mind, or you were just steadfast throughout the entire journey?
I wasn't. And you realize I said my faith was firm until
Hmm.
that experience, the beginning part of that experience, my faith began to wane and wane very quickly.
Hmm.
And it wasn't because I didn't have the emotional or the physical support, but it just happened because all I'm saying to myself is, what is this? And why is this happening? And definitely not knowing what the end would be because
Hmm.
of my financial circumstances at that time.
Hmm.
And so my faith plummeted quickly,
Hmm.
quickly to the point that I wanted God to just take me. I was just battling these voices in my head. And even though it would say, yes, faith, let's pray, this is just momentarily, in the same thought process, it was like, God, just take me.
Because the pain was so
Because the
excruciating.
pain was so excruciating. The fact that I needed to be taken care of at
And you were
21.
how old at the time?
21.
Mhm.
Literally from bathing, feeding, brushing my teeth, combing my hair, taking me to the bathroom.
Mhm.
I could do nothing for myself
And not knowing how long it was
and
going to
not knowing how
last.
long it would last.
You
And
had a
then starting
community.
to feel like a burden.
Yes. Oh, yes, but you had this amazing support system around you, the
Yes,
praying family
yes, yes.
that at
Every
your
day.
lowest, they were able to.
Every day they would gather by my bedside every evening and pray. My mother every evening without fail. I
Mhm,
could, as I talk to you now, I could still see the vision of them around the bed.
And that's what gave you that extra, that was the impetus, that catalyst, that
Yes, yes,
to
definitely.
fight.
The fact that they were praying for me
Hmm.
when I couldn't pray or see myself through for myself
Yes.
gave me the hope.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then it was like, okay, God, you're not taking me. So let me get into this thing and fight.
Yeah, like yeah. My thought through my process was, okay, you're a miracle working God. You
Yes.
do miracles. And the fact that you have not just taken this away from me just like that, that means I have to go through this.
Hmm.
And while I go through, I don't want to miss any lessons
No,
because I don't want to repeat this.
no.
I do not want to go back. So you have the support of your family. You're 21. You haven't even really started your career yet. With all the uncertainty, how long well, I know it's difficult to remember times because for me, one day I just got up. I remember that just one day. That's what I tell people. It was just one day. I don't know what your experience was like, but what happened to you?
So my own is instantly I wasn't walking and suddenly I was walking again. So I understand fully what you mean about not being able to pinpoint the exact time, but it just happened. And that's why I call myself an unrecognizable miracle
Yeah.
because it was miraculous.
Hmm.
Because even in that moment when it happened, and I was able to I was in the bedroom and I was able to force one foot in front of the next and get to the front room. When my mom and my aunt looked back and saw me, they didn't, they turned back around as if this wasn't real.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I always remember my aunt saying to me, "Why are you showing off?" Just a jest, right?
Hmm.
And she was like, "What are you doing out here?" Still trying to have this conversation. Now, part of my challenge too was I had a bit of lockjaw. So I wasn't able to fully express myself or speak where my mouth would open fully and
Because
be
of the
that
pain
audible
right
because of
there.
the pain and the joint challenge.
Oh, child, I had a flashback. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead. Mhm.
So all of that is why I am just so grateful and thankful because it was, as I said, it went from instant to suddenly and miracle.
And so you at some point was able to start this amazing career that you have and continue to build
Yes.
right now, and you're working for one of the largest law firms in the country, um, and all the financial analysts, this certified forensic, that, and all of the, listen, y'all, she's deep. She's deep. But I mean, you've been able to achieve all of these amazing things while still going through physical
Yeah.
challenges, right?
Yeah.
Every day. and
Every
and I
day.
started by the top saying it's so much a mindset thing
Mhm.
because you still got to show up in
Yeah.
spaces
Yeah.
and deliver,
Yes.
because ain't nobody really care how much pain you're in, truth be told.
And they would never understand it either.
And you can't really
You can't explain it.
explain the
So
level of the pain.
yeah, so
You
you
can't
just have to
explain
move
it.
through.
So how do you do that? I know it's a matter of faith as well, but how do you in your mind gather up yourself every day, because every day it's just a matter of the level of pain,
Hmm.
but every day there will be pain.
Yeah.
How do you push past that on a day-to-day basis?
So I have something I call my morning miracle flow,
Hmm.
and I do that religiously every day. So I command my day once I wake up. Once I wake up, I command my day. So the first thing I do, I wake up with gratitude, just thanking God to be able to live another day,
Hmm.
to have a clarity of mind, to be able to move my limbs. So that is the first thing. And then I pray, and then I declare
Hmm.
what my day is going to be for the rest of that day. So that's the first thing that I do.
Hmm.
And then the next thing I do, I listen to podcasts
Hmm.
would speak into my spirit. So whether it's a religious podcast or it's from a motivational, I love Eric Thomas. So
Hmm.
I listen to him very frequently,
Hmm.
and Sarah Jakes Roberts. So I feed myself that. And then I read. So
Hmm.
all of these things has nothing to do with what I have to do with when it comes to working professionally,
Right,
but it
right.
prepares me to have that powerful mindset to move through.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I exercise,
Hmm. And
whether
that's
that's just
important.
stretching, walking, whatever, strength training, 30 minutes of that. So it's something I do every morning religiously.
Hmm. It's a routine that
It's a
works for you.
routine that I've held on to. And then the next thing I do, I am very, very unapologetic about my boundaries.
Hmm. So let's talk about that. What do you mean? What are your boundaries?
If you ask me something, no is a complete answer. If it doesn't align with with the mindfulness or what I need for from my point of view physically.
So you know
So,
how to say no without feeling guilty.
oh yes, oh
Yes.
yes. No without feeling guilty, and no without an explanation.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Yes.
that's because I'm very clear about what I will take on.
Yes, ma'am. I am with you 100%. So here's a question for you.
Oh,
How did this experience affect your social life with this happening at such a crucial age as one entering adulthood? And how did you handle this mentally?
so how did this affect me at such a young age?
Yeah.
Ironically, it really didn't affect me to the point that people may think, because I did get married in 2000.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
not married now. So, from a social perspective, I developed where I would share openly and authentically my story,
So you
because,
never, this is not something you never held it back. You came out the gate
well,
talking about this?
if I interacted with you privately,
Hmm.
socially on that level, I would let you know what what was going on.
Right.
Now, from a this level of platform, from a global standpoint, I started to share my story in 2018. But from that point forward, I've always shared it, because I was also given a diagnosis when I came out of it that I would be dead by 25.
Mm.
And so that accelerated authenticity very quickly.
Right.
This
Right.
is
Like,
who
I
I
don't know how
am.
much time I
I'm
have
going to
left.
live life, and that's what it was. So it to me it didn't affect my social life, because I didn't allow my ailment to become me.
Yes. Yeah. I get it. I get it. Okay. So mom says, Bill May Fowler says, there is power in the spirit of
Oh,
gratitude.
definitely. Yes.
Absolutely. So you've been able to manage and achieve so much because you're this driven person, and even before, I think that has a lot to do with how much you've been able to achieve, because even with the diagnosis, you didn't become the diagnosis, and you didn't succumb to it, and you didn't stay still, and you didn't limit yourself,
No.
because in your mind, I have things to do. I have things to accomplish. And that didn't stop you from setting goals to achieve more and more. And then you launched this. So you're working in these professional spaces, and doing all that you do that people like us would not understand. And that's okay. We're fine with that. But you're doing all these wonderful things financially, and I know that you've worked with the Small Business Development Center as well, and been able to work with entrepreneurs and help them to find funding and to frame their businesses. And your hands and tentacles are just in so many different spaces with one so young. How do you keep yourself centered?
It goes back to number one, being obedient to the call, number one. And I look at whatever I do, it must be in alignment with that obedience and also my core values. And
Mm-hmm.
so it looks like a lot, but if you really look at the realm or the spaces that I work in, it still comes back to the same mindset and money mastery.
Mm-hmm.
What
Absolutely.
I'm called to disrupt and to bring to people. So because I am so aligned to that and so obedient to that call, I'm able to seem as if I have these tentacles all over. It becomes very natural for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an ease and flow for me. So this is the reason why I'm able to do it. And one thing that I am is very, very, very organized to
Mm-hmm.
the T. So what I do is I write down everything inclusive of what I want to do for my life and my professional goals. So I see that on a calendar 2 days before the month comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I believe by being able to see what you are going to be a part of, you're able to say, okay, is this in harmony with what is the main goal or the main why in my life? So my mom is my ultimate why. And now with her, instead of having dementia and me being the primary caregiver, that's number one. I mean, and you can, anything else is
Mm-hmm.
secondary to that.
Secondary to that.
Is secondary. Then the second thing is me. Whatever I need to ensure that my physical state is at a place where I can now serve, that is second. And then I serve. Everything else, I even see my profession as a point of service. So everything else falls after that.
Okay, Acneal just showed up. St. Vincent de Paul in the house. Caline has always had such clarity of mind. She's been,
Oh,
she's been poised, almost. She's been poised almost from the beginning with such brilliance, simple brilliance, no conflation,
yeah.
just know her no. Okay, that is so Acneal.
Oh,
That's so
thank you,
Neil.
Agnio.
Yes, definitely. Very poised indeed. So I you mentioned about your mom, and I'm so sorry to hear that. But being a
Don't be
care
sorry.
no,
Don't
I'm
be
just saying
sorry.
being a caretaker now, and watching her, what has that experience
Uh,
been like for you?
Now that experience has been it's been some days it's very weary,
Hmm.
but only emotionally weary. And then some days it's just so much joy.
Hmm.
And let me just say this. A lot of people know my mom. She is nowhere who she was. But the fact that the joy comes that I am now able to give to her, what she has given to me in my time of being, 1996 and bedridden with paralysis. I mean, the care was phenomenal between her and my family and my brother. And again, in 2013, we didn't talk about that, where I wasn't able to walk again. And she was airlifted with me. And this lady did not leave my bedside for the 4 weeks I was in Cleveland Clinic. So it's a joy to be able to serve her, to take care of her, just to give her that confident environment that she gave to me as a child.
Hmm.
Me and my brother as a child and as an adult. So the joy is there, but there's some days where it's emotionally pulling. Like a few days ago, I felt that because my mom, we just had plans to just do so much more,
Hmm.
but I am just so thankful and grateful that she is healthy. She is fully healthy in her body, and I'm able to, and I don't even call it a caretaker. I'm a caregiver. I'm able to give to her the comfort and the care that she deserves,
Hmm.
you know, during this time. So,
That's awesome. That's awesome because it can be an emotional
oh, it's an
roller
emotional roller
coaster
coaster,
giving,
trust me. And
caring for loved ones.
I'm just thankful that, I look at where my mindset mastery came from. And that and my faith, it's built, the foundation is faith. And to just hold on to that. And that what carries me every day,
Hmm.
especially when I interact with her.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So you talked about another level of paralysis in 2013 and being in hospital and your body just basically shutting down in essence. Again, I like to delve into the mindset of persons at the time that they're going through because I believe it is so, we know that's the battleground. We know that if our mind is not intact, then literally anything could happen. So you've had a similar experience before, but now something else is happening, and this time you're literally hospitalized. And what's happening in your mind now as you're going through?
Truthfully, I was at a different place. I had no conflicting voices in my head. My mind was so peaceful, and I had such a calm because before that happened, I had started to move into a spiritual maturity where I would say my biggest want for myself was to hear, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant."
Hmm.
And so I lived day by day with that. And so going into that experience, I never saw anything beyond living each day in that experience the best that I could. So my mindset was totally opposite from the 1996 experience. I had no inhibitions, no thoughts of what if, and if it did happen, if death was what my destiny was at that time, I was okay with it. I could recall my family and closest friends around the ambulance when I was being taken to the airlift flight, the medevac, and I had to say to them, "It's okay, it's okay.
Hmm.
I'll see you again."
Right.
I was confident that whatever the end result would be, I was okay with it. So I was able to say to them, "It's okay."
Yeah. That's beautiful when you have a mind that's fixed,
Yeah,
uh, and understanding that no matter what happens, I'm good,
yeah,
absent,
yeah,
present. That's just the
yeah.
way it works. That's beautiful. So let's talk about you said in 2018 you launched your I
Live
got
life free. Yes.
yeah, live life free. Let's talk about the brand and the why behind that.
So now the brand was basically now lifting all of the reward. I look at it as a reward, even though it's a story, and I had challenges and I had to walk through it. Now lifting that to a higher platform, because I could recall in 2015 hearing the audible voice and literally saying to me that it was an indictment on me that I was not openly sharing the information that I knew, especially from the point of view of mindset and money. And, truly understanding that this is what would assist people with closing the wealth gap. This would assist people with understanding that abundance isn't about having zeros, how many zeros you have behind what you're paid, but being a good steward of what you have in order to become a, to be able to receive more.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was given to me in 2015. It didn't happen until 2018, but that was the birth of the brand Live Life Free in 2018.
Mm-hmm. And you launched and just pretty much took the world by storm, just doing your thing. And you have been I've been watching you, and I saw when you launched the brand, and I mean always did amazing things and admired you. And you've been instrumental in really teaching this whole concept of this isn't something that I want to say it's just a brand, it's just something that you do like on camera, and then off cameras you just like take off everything and go. But you literally have gone into schools and churches
Yes, yes,
and any place that would open the door to you to begin to teach
yes,
people about how to manage money, how
yes,
to begin savings. And I just love that you start with the kids.
yes, yes.
And you work with them, and I was told like you do such a masterful job with them.
Thank you.
As you continue to build this brand, what is it that we're missing as a people? What are we missing as a people when it comes to managing our money?
What from the foundational side is that there's a psychology to money.
Mm-hmm.
So before it's not we before we get into money management, we must address our mindset. We must look at our money stories because a lot of us also have a lot of money trauma. You may have grown up in a house where it was just financial abuse
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't understand it. And you could let me give you an example where mommy couldn't use the car if daddy wasn't happy.
Mm, okay.
Some people don't look at that because he is saying, I pay the bills, you're not going anywhere, and that car is my car. Some of
Mm-hmm.
them may have audibly heard those kind of exchanges. So the one component that we don't tap into, and it doesn't always have to be a negative experience, but just understanding that what we do with our money now is a derivative of our mental position or our psychology about what money is.
Mm-hmm.
And
Um,
that's the one component that I ensure with the brand is where mindset meets money mastery. So you have to have both in order to do or to get where we want persons in our culture to be,
mm-hmm.
especially from a point of view you spending the most money.
Right, right. So it starts with the whole mindset. What's the
Yes.
next step? Just take us through the steps. Yeah.
Okay, so the steps are you have to identify what is your mindset because beliefs create behavior. So you now need to understand what beliefs do I still hold on to because not everyone you will throw away. And then which beliefs do I need to now lean into so I could build different behaviors around my money. And then the second step is you have to organize your dreams, your goals around your core values because a lot of us are just spending money to fill a void,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's not aligning with why we're spending this money. Okay, so if one of your core values is family, spending money on travel that includes carrying family
Mm-hmm.
aligns your money with your core values. So that's another step. And I'm just going to give you some quick, simple ways to understand the four step. And this is a signature process that I have developed over the last 20 years. I live it, I
The
teach it to my
blueprint.
clients too.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing is you have to systemize your money. So you cannot just look at your bank account or understand what you're being paid and just write a check or pay those bills every month. And I started, talking about the tracking. We talked about that a few, when we came into the conversation. So you have to have a system around your money. And then the final thing you must do is you have to look at strategies, success strategies that are simple
Mm-hmm.
that you can now use in your system in order to activate your money and your finances where you want that to be. And I call that you amplifying your legacy. So you're now shifting the course or the trajectory of your life, and you're now able to shift your children or future generations, and it goes beyond that.
Hmm. That sounds powerful. So it's really getting a grip on your core values play a major role
Yes,
in the way you use money and where you send it, where you
yes,
direct it, in other
yes.
words. Yeah, I get
Right.
it.
So you're able now to tell your money what to do instead of trying to figure out where did my money go.
Right,
Because
right.
a lot of people are just existing, and their money is telling you or telling them where it's going.
Yeah. Let's
So
let me
you have
get
to get back in the driver's seat.
okay. So let me get to some more comments. Let's see what we have here. Gina Smith. Hey, Gina. Wow, this is an amazing story and such an encouraging testimony about the life giver and the strength and love of family. Uh, Lyndon Lundy. What Lyndon says, I see in the hotel too. We must have said something before that. Oh, Lyndon says you're his buddy. Okay, Acneil. Okay,
Okay.
please share on what. Okay, I have to read this carefully because Acneil could be a little trapsy, right?
I understand what he's trying to say.
Okay,
And to me,
yeah.
it's not Tropsy. I understand
No,
what
I'm
you're
saying he
saying,
could be.
but
I
I
know, but
understand what
so
you're
I have to
saying.
read it carefully. But
But
so the whole point in some people are territorial, and that's people who are insecure.
you
Uh,
know, I literally, I don't drive. I don't do what I do by looking in the rear view or looking. I have blinders on. Literally, I have blinders on because the weight of what I am purposed to do. I don't have time to look left nor right or even back. I don't live Lot's life. I have to look forward, and I tell you, this is a course on obedience.
mhm,
I don't, and I, a part of this entire process is beyond just teaching. I was given the mandate to teach teachers,
mhm, mhm.
and so people are going to be people if their mindset is of that.
Yeah.
But if you're not focused on that, and I'm not saying that I am being ignorant to the fact that there may be persons who don't have the best in mind for you,
Mhm,
but that's not where my focus is. It's about teaching, it's about putting that information out. And, our fear of worrying about other people causes mediocre information to get out and not masterful information.
mhm. I
And
think that
so,
Neil, sorry,
yeah,
nearly I understand what you're saying clearly. You hit the nail, and you've reiterated it several times tonight. And simply, when you're clear on your assignment, it's just that I'm very direct in that regard. When you're clear on your assignment, you have very little time to think of anything else, or
mhm,
the only thing you're thinking about is that one, you're walking in obedience, two, the impact that you're having on those people that are waiting for you.
yeah,
Because I often tell clients there's a group of people that are waiting just for you, that
hmm,
nobody else will reach, because it's your mandate,
yeah,
it's your assignment to get to them, to teach them, to pour into them. When you approach it from that standpoint and
hmm,
you understand that you're not called to serve everyone,
no,
there will always be people who have a difficulty with what you're doing. But more importantly, like I said, those people who don't want to share the information, the knowledge that they have, those are people that are insecure.
hmm,
Because even though Caline and I may know the same things, we could never present it the same way.
no, no.
It
Then
just
who's
can't
called
happen.
to us would be different. I've
Yeah,
been teaching and doing this since '99,
you know.
and
So
so yeah,
so it's so when you have that understanding, the clarity on what you just do what you do, and let the chips fall where they may. You just let the chips fall where they may. I
hmm,
don't even, when you say you have on blindness, I don't even have on blindness. I see you. Well, no, I see you, but because I am so focused on the way how Holy Spirit revealed it to me, is that I'm on a path to destiny. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
literally on this path.
yeah.
So I see what's ahead.
Yes, yes,
Now, people are on the left and right, and if I have to stop to converse with somebody on my left or right, I will do that, but that does not take me off my path
no, no,
to
no.
destiny. So I don't put blinders on. I see you, I recognize you for who you are, for whatever role that you need to play at any given time, but that does not deter me
Right.
at all. And that is where the rubber meets the road, because a lot of people struggle with the
Yeah,
clarity,
yeah,
and it takes time. We talked
yeah,
about the boldness, the courage to be able to do
yeah,
what you do unapologetically.
yeah.
And so you pour into so many people out of the sheer joy, and it
Yeah,
exudes from you,
yeah.
and it's a joy. I think if people understood that the giver gets more
Yes,
out of
you
the
do.
than
You
the
do. You
receiver.
surely do. Especially if you genuinely are committed to that obedience and truly being a servant.
Hmm.
Truly being a servant, and I'm not saying being a servant where you're walked on,
Hmm.
because I'm talking about having a servant's heart, that you're genuinely sharing and teaching in those spaces
Hmm.
where you can give, because God has given you everything that you have and what so
Yeah.
definitely.
And from the perspective of that is the reason he's given it to you, because he knew if he gave Caline this information, I could trust her to share it with
Yeah,
others. That's the way how I see it.
stewardship. Yes, yes,
Yeah, he trusts you to share it with others. And so and it's from that cause that you're able to continue to grow, and excited. Like, there's nothing like watching somebody connect the dots, seeing the light bulb go off, and that,
yes,
their light eyes
yes,
illuminated
yes,
when they get it.
yes,
And they're able to connect the dots. That's a beautiful thing. Mom says there's a freedom and power in knowing your
definitely.
assignments.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, knowing your assignment, tell us what's next. I can't believe I didn't plug in my thing. I'm going to have to sign off soon because my battery is running out.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, we usually go for an hour and a half anyway, but as we're about to wrap us, tell us about where are you taking this brand? What is the remainder of 2020 look like for you? Where are you going, the spaces, and let people know, of course, where they can connect with you, for those in particular, whether they're in Grand Bahama. I have people in here from Brooklyn, Guyana. I think I saw someone from Canada, whatever. So let's talk about where they can connect with you to find out more about what you do, and whether that calls for you working one on one with them.
Okay. So, as you had introduced me, I'm a personal finance and business strategist. So, I am a coach, a consultant in that area when it comes to mindset and money. I am also a teacher when it comes to financial literacy for children. And I'm also a speaker. So, those are the services that I provide. And there are opportunities where I serve for free, and I also serve for a fee. And so persons can find me. I am on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. My name, Caline Newton, that's Caline Newton. And where this brand is going now, I have just certified myself as a educator to create curriculum. So what I'm doing now is creating curriculum where persons can also now have an opportunity to pay for my signature process, and also move themselves from where they're at to where they want to be. I actually provided that course to the Grand Bahama Resilience Center free of charge. Now it's going to be translated to a fee based digital course.
Mhm.
Anything when it comes to church and children is usually free. So just reach out to me, and if it aligns with my core values and my brand, that's an opportunity for me to serve. So just definitely continuing on the path of my destiny and what my assignment is. And there's some very, very exciting things that are going to roll out into the new year. So just stick by me and stay tuned.
Good. I am definitely going to be following and reaching out to you too. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for swerving with me tonight. I appreciate you so much. I wish you nothing but the best. You're focused, and I pray that God would increase you the more, that He would enlarge your territory, and that you would get into significant spaces where they need a culture disruptor in the midst, that when you walk into boardrooms, no matter where they may be around the world, whether you show up in Zoom, whether you show up on Google Meet, whether you show up on Teams, whether you
Oh,
show up in
wow.
person, wherever you show up, you will shift the culture, you will shift the atmosphere, and every space that you would walk in, and you would dominate that space because that's what you've been called to do, and you do it well. So thank you so much, my sister. Good night to
Oh, good
everybody.
night.
Thank you
Yes.
guys for hanging out with us again tonight. And I'll see you back again next week, same time, same place. Good night, everybody.